Hey guys, Eric here. So today we're going to break down the R in the word free that you often hear me use. And that R stands for being responsible for self. So we're going to break down exactly what that means. So stay tuned on the Eric McNeil Be Free Show.
Black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
Hey guys, so welcome back to my channel. You've just discovered the Eric McNeil Be Free Show, where I show you how to be financially independent, responsible for self, enjoy life, and empower others. Free. Now, you may be wondering, well, exactly what does it mean when you say being responsible for self? Well, being responsible for self is just really another way of saying being self-sufficient, right? So that's just my way of saying being self-sufficient. And when I say be responsible for self, it has the R in, the R, so it allows me to use the word free. You get it? All right, so being self-sufficient, that's mighty important if you want to be free. You cannot be free if you're not self-sufficient. So anyway, today is a good day for us to talk about being self-sufficient because I woke up this morning and my water didn't come on at the tap when I tried to turn it on. So the pump actually went bad. And I actually just replaced, it's not necessarily the pump, but it's the switch that attaches to the pump. There's like a switch. And we're going to walk around here and I'll show you exactly what I mean here. And this will help us to kind of deal with this question of being self-sufficient a lot better. So I'm going to turn the camera around and off we will go. So anyway, since the pump is not working, I got my bucket here. You guys can see I got my bucket. So today I'll be using my bucket to actually bathe. And it's interesting because even though I have 2 showers in the house, 2 bathtubs in the house, and still, for the most part, I actually use this bucket more than I use the shower. It just, so I don't even really use the showers that much now. I just use the bucket. But anyway, that's what I'm going to be using today to bathe. Because that pump is not going to be fixed today, I can assure you that. But I'll get it fixed. Now, let's see. Okay, so now that we've got a full bucket of water, we will walk back over here towards the pump and I will show you exactly where the problem is. I actually came out here earlier today to take a look at it, but this is the pump, and it pumps water into the house. And what I've done is I've taken some plastic bags and I put over this switch. There's a switch that actually is mounted to the top of the pump, and that's a pressure switch. Now, this pressure switch, it has some lights on it like power on, pump on, and failure, and a reset button. And what happens is that when the water comes in, the pressure switch automatically turns the pump on. And I actually replaced this switch piece a few months ago. And I purchased, this is a brand new switch. And you know what? It is dead. So I said it can't be. I just purchased that. So I had started thinking about what's going on. The first time I didn't know what the problem was, but now I have a very good idea of what the problem is. Because the problem occurred right after the heavy rains. You know, a couple times the switch, it seems like it went on and went off, and then today it just didn't come on. So I actually opened and looked. I see it's getting a buildup in moisture. So because of where they put this switch at on the back of the house, and the rains come, and there's no enclosure for this pump, it means that over time moisture is building up and it's causing this switch to go bad. So instead of buying a new one this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to unmount this and I'm going to dry it out, and hopefully that solves the problem. If that doesn't solve the problem, then what I'll do is see if I can replace like the capacitor. I think the capacitor is probably the culprit from what I've researched. So I'm going to see if I can just replace the capacitor on it, to find a capacitor somewhere in town without buying an entirely new switch again. But all of that is part of being self-sufficient. You have to know how to fix some stuff. Like, I'm not an electrician or anything, but you have to be able to research things online and try and fix them yourself instead of having to replace something every time it goes bad. And we're going to walk in the house, and I've laid out some items so I could really drive home the point to you about being self-sufficient. All right, so just a moment. Okay, guys, so I'm back in the house, and I want to show you a few things, and so that I can really drive home this point about being responsible for self, or being self-sufficient. Okay, so behind me, you see I have a few items laid out on the island here, and I'm going to go through these and we're going to talk about these items, okay? So, at any rate, the first item here is, this is just a plastic container, and about, once a week or so I'll go down to near one of the universities and purchase like some granola, because you can't really find it here much, so that's about the closest place that I can get it. And instead of just making my own from scratch, I like the ingredients that they use in their granola. And by the way, you just use oats, honey, pumpkin seed, almond nuts, flaxseed, ground nuts. In the U.S. we call ground nuts peanuts. And they use sesame seeds, sunflower seeds, raisins, and coconut. So what I'll do is I'll go buy one of these, and then I'll go buy like some mixed nuts. They'll have like almonds and cashews and some more various nuts. And I'll buy just some raw oats, and I'll mix it all together, so you'll see it in this container here. So that's just usually I'll eat that for breakfast with some, typically, usually I'll make some tiger nut milk. And we don't do the tiger nut too much in the U.S. Some people do it, but when I was growing up, tiger nuts was not a common theme. And let me show you what some people are going to be asking me, well, what in the world are tiger nuts? And right now you see me, I have some tiger nuts soaking. And what I'll do is I'll soak these for about a day, and then what I'll do is I'll grind them, and the milk that comes out of them, I'll freeze that, and then the actual fiber, I'll freeze that, and I'll usually add the fiber into my cereal each day as well. So the fiber will be ground up like you'll see it here after I mix it. That's just tiger nut fiber. And that's an extremely, extremely good fiber. And we actually, people pay for fiber in the United States. They pay good money when they'll sit there and throw this away, and it's extremely good for them. So these are tiger nuts. They grow in the ground. They look similar to peanuts, but they're usually sweet. So you can just take one of these and eat it. I'm eating this one, and it's sweet. But it makes a very good milk, very nutritious, very simple to make. So anyway, but my point is that because I'm always buying these things, I have an awful lot of them. Like if you go around like you see down here underneath my cabinets, I have a lot of those containers. And then over here, another cabinet. So, in the U.S., we just throw that stuff away, but I don't typically throw things away like that. I'll reuse them. And that's part of being self-sufficient. Like, hey, reuse these, and then a lot of times, if I make my tiger nut milk, then what I'll do is typically I'm making like 3 liters at a time. So what I'll do is to always have fresh milk when I take it out. I'll fill one of these about halfway with tiger nut milk so that I have maybe about 6 or 7 in the freezer, and each time I take one out I can use it within 2 days, because if you're not using it within about 2 or 3 days, the milk is spoiled, it's not fresh. So I just fill it halfway, and so I make use of these things. I don't just throw them away, toss them and burn them, because I'm on a mountain, so if I'm throwing it away I would have to burn it, and so I don't do that. And even with bottles and jars and things like that, like you see down here, most of those are like mason jars that I imported, because you can't really find mason jars here, so I had to import those jars so we can do preservatives and things like that. But even the other jars, you won't see me just throwing those jars away. If I buy something like a salad dressing or something like that, we'll try to reuse that stuff. You don't just throw it away, right? It's still a very good glass to use, so why throw it away? So all of that helps you to be self-sufficient. Whereas in the U.S., something happens and you're ready to run to the store to replace it. But I got these items laid out on the counter so I can specifically show you how my lifestyle here is different from what I was used to practicing in the U.S. So here's a spatula, perfect example. Now, this spatula broke, and you can see, let me see if I can get in. It broke right there, cheap spatula. So it broke after, I don't know, a few months of use. But instead of just throwing it away, the workers here, they say, oh no, we'll weld that back together. We got the welding machine out there. So they welded it back, and man, this spatula has been just fine since they welded it. It's stronger now, much stronger now, since they welded it back together than the original weld that was on it. So I haven't had any more problems with that. Now, in the U.S., that would have been gone. I'd have threw that away, went and bought another one, and most of you would have done the same. Here's a knife, same thing, the knife broke. I mean, it gave me some good use, but boom, it broke. And they welded it back together. It's been strong ever since, solid, after they welded it back together. No problem. Here's another smaller knife, same thing, broke the same place, they welded it back together. It's been fine ever since. And here's a strainer, same thing, it broke, they welded it back together, and it has been fine ever since. So, you see, all of that would, I would have ended up going to the store buying new ones. Now, here's a motor. This motor comes from the refrigerator, and every so often it goes bad, and when it happens, the freezer will continue to freeze, but the refrigerator part will actually get warm, and so your food and stuff will spoil. So initially I was calling the refrigerator repairman, and he would have to come way up here in the mountain, so that's a nice little charge. So after doing that a couple times, I looked at to see what he was replacing, and it was this motor. So after that I was like, no, I'll replace the neck. If it does it again, I'll replace it. So basically I started replacing it. So I've had to replace it a couple times, and I just run down to an area they call Medina area and purchase one, you know, for a little or nothing, and I replace it myself, right? So I don't have to call him. So that's all a part of becoming self-sufficient. And here, this old mixer, I've had to fix this. This is a NutriBullet. I've had this I don't know how many years, but this is, out of all the mixers, this is probably one of the best mixers that I've had. And I've been through a lot of mixers, and this is one of the best by far. It's lasted long, but I actually imported this, so I had already been using this a long time, even since before I came to Africa. And I came to Africa, relocated here in 2016, but I had this for a few years before then. So it's lasted a long time, but I've had to fix it probably about 10 times. Now normally, again, I would have just tossed this, but I've opened it up and I've fixed this thing on, you know, at least 10 times. And you know, now it's finally getting to the point where it doesn't want to be fixed anymore, so I probably have to go ahead and get rid of it now. But I've actually got to the point at one time where I tried to buy another one from here because I liked it so much. But the thing is, you can't even really find a NutriBullet here, a legitimate one. Let me say, you can find them. You can find them all day long. They say NutriBullet, Magic Bullet, blah, blah, blah. But they're fakes. They're knockoffs. All of them come from China. And the last time I tried to buy one, I asked the guy before I went to meet him. I said, hey, is this a real? I can tell, you know, I know all the markings. And, you know, I've done all the research to know if it's a fake knockoff or if it's a legitimate, authentic NutriBullet. So I asked the guy, I said, is this a knockoff? Is it fake or is it real? Oh, it's real. It's real. You come. So I get down there, and you know, and he's a long way away. I get down there and look it over and see immediately that it's a fake. And I said, boss, why you bring me out here to get this fake NutriBullet? I say, this is not real. Oh, it's real, boss. It's real. I say, it's not real. You know, so I started showing him the markings that prove to him it's not real. And he just, you know, sitting there looking down. So anyway, but a lot of times I can't blame them because they really don't know a lot of times if it's real or not. You know, all of them are coming from China, and so to them, it's a NutriBullet. You know, they don't know nothing about this other stuff. But the problem, you know, with buying some of the knockoffs is that a lot of people who had these knockoff NutriBullets, and they take the canister and put on there, and there's so much pressure being built up in this thing that you have cheap parts, it explodes. So this whole canister explodes in their face. You know, so you have shrapnel, like somebody threw a hand grenade at you and just poof. So that's the problem with buying some of the knockoff NutriBullets. And then I have this water heater. You know, it just heats water, and basically you plug this piece in, and then you put this on there. It heats the water in a couple minutes. And I've had to repair this at least 10 times also, right? Because I refuse to just throw it away if it could be repaired. And most of the times in the U.S., we just throw things away. We're conditioned to throw things away because it keeps us dependent on a system, you know, this system of dependency where we can't do anything for ourselves. So it's like, oh, your car get a flat tire and you just say, I'm just going to throw the car away and get another one. That keeps you in debt. You'll never be free. You'll never be self-sufficient if you do things like, if you can't fix these simple things like that, then you will never be self-sufficient. So let's go around here. One more thing I want to show you. So in here, where I have the solar system. Now you can see I have a little computer here and the monitor. But when I ran into problems and I was trying to figure out this solar system, I wanted to program it because I felt that they didn't, you know, program it properly. And so after I started researching it, the people online gave me some more advice on how to program it. But when I went to program it, I noticed that, you see this cable right here, I'm going to pull it out. It has this kind of end on it. It's called an RJ45. Looks like, you know, the telephone connection. Alright, so this cable wasn't in the material that they left me. And here's how they try and keep you, people try and keep you dependent. Like, they should have included this cable, but they didn't include the cable because they don't want you trying to program the unit. They want you to have to call them, and they come out here and charge you a lot of money to do something that you should be able to do yourself. Now, I'm saying that they intentionally left this, I believe they intentionally left the cable out. I don't know that for sure, but I'll tell you why I think they did intentionally leave it out. Because I have two inverters. The cable, there's a cable that comes with each inverter, and both cables were missing, right? So if it had just been one cable missing, then I'd say, okay, that's just, you know, some mistake or some faux pas. But no, both cables were missing. So what I did is I had some old cable. I'm a computer networking guy, so, you know, I know about cables and stuff. And I looked at the connection and I read the information. And it says that I need to have a cable with this on one end and a COM connection on the other end. And I didn't have it, so I just went in and I actually spliced this to actually make it. Looked at the pinouts and I actually made this. But then I needed to have a computer with this kind of connection. They don't even make computers with this connection no more. So on your laptop or your new computers, you don't have that. But I had this old HP networking computer. And lo and behold, on the back of it, I had the proper connection so I can connect it. So, see, and that's the thing about just not throwing things away, because I was able to use this. And this thing, I don't know, it might be going near at least 10 years old. It's 2020, 2010, over 10 years, well over 10 years old, well over 10 years. So anyway, I had that computer, and that, you know, I couldn't use it for anything else, but it was good to be able to connect to those solar inverters and program them and connect to the monitor, and voila, I was able to program it. Now, and that's the thing about here is that, hold on just a second, I'm going to turn the camera back around. So anyway, as I was saying, that's the thing about here when you say, well, I'm going to live a self-sufficient lifestyle, I'm going to live off-grid. You have to be able to fix things yourself. In the U.S., it was common to have more money than time, whereas here, it's common to have more time than money. So what you do is you have to figure out, okay, how can I fix this myself? How can I do this myself? You know, because you're trying to become independent, and when something goes wrong, you know, in the U.S., we just have a tendency, you know, if you don't have any money, where you run? You go to Walmart. If you have a little money, you end up going to Target, or as the uppity people say, Target, right? But here, you're not just going to be running to no Walmart or no Target, right? You have to have, I mean, you can run to, there's some places, you go to Malcolm and stuff, but you're going to be spending, and you're not going to be self-sufficient, right? You're not going to be responsible for self. Now, you're not going, I'm not saying that you need to know how to fix everything. If you do, that's fine. But my point is that you need to be responsible for self. You need to research things and stop just calling somebody when something goes wrong. And because none of this stuff is rocket science. And you have the internet, the whole internet. You can sit down, some of you will sit down on the internet for all kind of silly stuff. But when it comes to something that is meaningful to your well-being, then you don't want to put no effort into researching that on the internet and using the internet for something purposeful. You don't do that. And what I'm telling you is that's what you need to be using it for, is how can I free myself from this debt matrix? How can I be responsible for myself? Self-sufficient. Now, another part of being self-sufficient is with the health, right? Because the health is wealth. Now, on the next episode, we'll go more into, if you're staying off grid, way out, then how do you deal with your health and your food and things like that. So I'll get more into that about, my take on it and what I do. And, we'll just get further into this whole thing about being responsible for self. But anyway, that's just a little tidbit on the R, being responsible for self. And this has been the Eric McNeil Be Free Show. And I encourage you, if you haven't already done so, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, like, comment, subscribe, share. You know the routine. And also, you can find me at facebook.com/Eric McNeil is free if you are into reading. And again, I want to thank you for being a part of our new channel. And as always, be free. Hoorah, ahuru.